just going to get started. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight to the session 2 of the multi-species learning series. And I'd like to thank Grace and Madeline for joining us tonight, and they'll be talking to you guys here when we're just done the introductions. Just a reminder, the provincial judging competition is on March the 8th. Registration deadline is March the 1st. We'd sure like to see you all there. I think everybody that is on this call is actually registered for that. So pretty exciting. And just so you know too, there's some great 4-H has some great prizes for you this year. Does anybody have any questions about the details for the contest, or you can join as a team? You can add on there if you want to be put on a team if you don't really know, so that you're eligible for team prizes. And winners in the senior category have the opportunity to attend the Western Canadian Judging Competition at Exhibition next fall. The schedule for the day, and then also a special thank you to the Lakeland judging team. Your commitment to this project is appreciated, and the 4-H members learn the basics and some great advice as they judge more. And just a reminder, registration deadline is March the 1st. I'd like to thank our 4-H Alberta supporters, that without their continued investment, the multi-species learning virtual series wouldn't be possible. So our diamond clover is the Alberta government. Our emerald clover is Alberta Recycling, AltaLink, ATB Financial, Calgary Stampede Foundation, and CPA, Chartered Professional Accountants, and UFA. Our gold clover sponsors, AFSC and the Co-op. Silver clover, Wolf Carbon Solutions, Inc. And our bronze clover, Alberta Beef, Bayer, Gas Alberta, Inc., Lakeland College, MCS Net, Neutrina, and Viterra. And our 4-H Canada national partner is Bayer. And we'd like to thank them for their support. So now we're going to turn it over to Grace and Madeline to talk to you guys about some more judging tips and things to know. All right, girls, go ahead.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Fingers crossed it's gonna work. This one. Okay, we might just have to do it like this because it was kind of buckering up a little bit. So hopefully we can get her going. Okay, so this is our third presentation here. You guys did one in person last week, and then we had one online before that. So this is the third one. I'd like to welcome you all here and hope you learned some more tonight. Just a little bit of a review of what they Dylan and Casey would have talked about in the first online one. Unique transitions help to make an impression and expand your vocabulary. I know different transitions and using those in your judging reasons helps you to stand out and helps the judge to notice you and sets you apart from everybody else. So transitions are a really important thing. We talked about what to look for in beef, dairy, equine, and sheep. And then just remember that those different species will have different transition words and different fillers that you can use. Rambling on only makes things worse. So remember to keep your reasons short and sweet. You want to make sure you get your point across, but you also don't want to keep talking about the same animal more than you need to. And then take detailed notes and have an intro and a conclusion that you can stick with. So one thing that we were always taught when we came to Lakeland was have an introduction and a conclusion and stick with that, and then just adjust your reasons as you can and as you see fit. So that's really important that you take notes for that as well.
So today what we're going to do is, you guys have had lots of information about how to make your reasons, how to judge classes. So we're going to show you 3 different classes: a market steer class, a carcass class, and then a quarter horse class. And then you guys can decide what class you want to give reasons on. So take notes for them. So hopefully you guys have pen and paper if you want to do it that way. And then you guys can judge the class, and then we'll let you guys give your reasons and we can give you some feedback.
I think I also have market lamb class in there too, and it might be heifers instead of steers, I'm not sure. This is just some common livestock classes that you might be see, you're mostly going to see in any competitions that you go to. So your beef ones are really big down here. So that's your market steers, breeding heifers, yearling bulls and pairs. Dairy will mostly be lactating cows, but you can see some heifers sometimes. Quarter horses, breeding ewes, market hogs, and goats are all really common. So if you're thinking about different classes that you might see or different things you might want to freshen up on or learn more about, I would focus on these for sure.
Okay, just a little bit about judging chickens because it's kind of thrown in there sometimes. So you're looking at the pigmentation of the chickens. So you want them to have you want a bright yellow pigment in younger hens. So that's bright yellow with their eyes, their beak, earlobes, feet, vents, shanks, and hocks. And then there's the older they get, the lack of pigment that they'll have. You also want to look at the shape and size of their vent, which should be large and oval shaped. And then capacity, you want them wide and deep between the pubic bones, from the pubic bones to their keel bone, and you want them to have some room in their abdominal cavity.
You guys asked lots of questions about chickens last time, so I just thought I'd throw them in there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. More on chickens, their handling quality. They want them to be flexible and have low fat cover on their pubic bones. Fat chickens are not good chickens. You want them to not carry too much fat because you want them to be able to push that egg through, right? Plumage, so that's their feathers. You want them to be bright and shiny. You want them to be fully feathered, neat, clean, and not broken. No dirt in there. No nicked feathers or anything like that. And then health and vigor, you want to assess their head, their face, their comb, which is that little crown looking thing on their head there. Their eyes as well. You want them to be healthy and bright. You want them to have a bright comb and eyes, no loose skin or wrinkles. And then just remember that different breeds will have different aspects to look for. So depending on what you're judging, make sure you know the differences between those.
Okay, we're gonna move on to those practice classes. Yes, we got market lambs, beef heifers, geldings, and then so we'd like you guys to give some reasons or come up with some reasons on those. And then if you're wanting a little bit of a challenge, you can do the beef carcass class that we've got for you, and then the does as well. And then just remember to utilize different transition words and phrases to spice up all your reasons, because otherwise it can get to be too repetitive, and then it just helps you differentiate your classes from each other too.
Yeah, even if you guys just want to do like an introduction and then one set of reasons, that's good. Just so you guys get practice on writing out reasons and saying your reasons is good as well. So this is our class of market lambs. If you guys have any questions, you can ask now and I can try to help you with that. Otherwise, you guys can start judging them.
These are market lambs, correct?
Yep, they are. If anybody else has any questions, I think this is the only picture I have. There might be another one.
Those feathers are quite the thing, hey? Would the kids see those in Canada?
Oh yeah, we've judged. I haven't judged market lambs a whole lot, but I think I've done a couple, and yeah, you'll see lots of those on the legs as well.
Hmm.
Some will have them trimmed out, and then some will have them like that. I think it just kind of depends on the producer. It might depend on the breed too. I'm not too sure. Let us know if you need us to go back to another picture or not. And if you don't want to do if you don't want to do reasons or say your reasons, at least write them out so you get practice in writing them out. But if you want to say them to us after, we'll definitely take them and give you tips and tricks on that as well. How's everybody doing? I figure you 2 minutes left. Is that good for everybody? Okay, we got some people that are just about finished, so we can finish up and we'll get to see if anybody wants to say their reasons, or we'll kind of converse and see what everybody wrote down.
Dallas says she's finished, so.
Perfect. Okay, does anybody want to say their reasons? Maybe we can give you some tips and tricks, and it's good for everybody else too as well. You can do it orally, that's good too.
Do you mind if we do reasons?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So,
Aiden, you gotta turn your music down, honey. We can't hear you. Or like we can, but we can also hear Corblan.
okay. So I placed this class in market land. This 2413. I like 2 because he seems to be the longer, broader lamb. Though 4 does stand a bit better. 4/1. Again, it comes down to length, but I do like the depth of ribbon 1 more. 4 just has a bit of finer muscling. 1/3. This was very fine, and this was a bit finer, but 1 again, it's a deeper lamb compared to 3. So I placed this class of market lambs 2-4-1-3.
Yeah, that was really good. You can tell that your vocabulary is really good. One thing I would focus on, and we didn't give you much time, so that's no problem with that. But in a competition where you're given lots of time, and you have time to come up with your reasons, try using more transition words and more phrases in there, like for these reasons, or 2 cups at the top of the class for me today because, and then say your reasons. Compared to the animal at the bottom of the class, things like that. Use those transition words, and you can also use different ones for different things too. So no, that was really good. Does anybody else want to say their reasons, or have any other questions?
Would you mind if I do some reasons?
No, go right ahead.
I placed this class with market lambs 2-4-3-1. I placed 2/4 because I found this animal more long. It was correct, it was loin. I really like the stance of this animal. I just like this animal over top. Going into my second animal, if I take a look between the different 2 animals, number 4, he's loined. It's not quite as straight compared to number 2 here, but he is quite round and loined and a very good lamb to compare with for my first place. Going into my third place animal, he's wide. He's just a little incorrect. If you look through his back feet, they're kind of curved in a little bit. That's what put him in that spot today. If we look at the bottom of the class, we look at him and then compare him to our first place animal. They're not just really comparable. As much as he was long, he just wasn't correct in his structure, and he wasn't quite as straight as well throughout his top loin. These are my reasons why I placed this class of market lambs 2, 4, 3, 1.
Yeah, again, really good job. Your vocabulary was great. I really liked how you use different transitions into your different pairs. So moving on to my third place, moving on to my fourth place. Remember, one thing I want to say to remember is when you're talking about your last place animal, you can also say something good about them. Don't just say what is wrong about them and not grant them for something, because you never know if that animal's owner is in the ring or if they're in the stands watching, right? So make sure you don't not necessarily bash, but don't disregard an animal just because they're in fourth place. Make sure you're saying something good about them. But no, a really good job.
One other thing I would say is you use the word animal a lot. Try to be specific on what the class is, because then the judge knows that you actually looked at the class, you know what kind of animal you're talking about. So I think we said this was a class of market lamb, so you can say like, this market lamb comes to the top of the class for me today for these reasons. It just shows that the judge knows that you looked at the class and you know what kind of species that you're judging.
Another thing too that I actually just thought of, and I know you're not necessarily for this class, but if you have another class and you have, say, it's a class of 4 and you have 2 pairs that are really similar, you could say in your introduction, in this class of market lambs, I have 2 pairs that separated themselves quite easily. And then you could go on to say how the top 2 were close and the bottom 2 were close. Things like that just set you apart a little bit. So, but no, great job. If anybody else wants to say reasons, they can. If you just want to say some things you noticed about the class, that maybe could help other people, feel free to go ahead and say that. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so this is a class of Hereford heifers. I don't know how many of you are beef in there, but this beef is probably one of the most common species you're going to get in the judging competition, especially down here. So same thing, if you guys want to just take some reasons, take some notes, and then if you want to give your reasons after, you can. We can give you tips. Or if you just want to take notes and practice your intro and conclusion, then that's good as well. I also only have one picture of this class. This is the only angle you have. Again, if you finish and you're done, just let us know in the chat, and then we can move on to reasons when everybody's finished. I think we're a little short on time, so I'll give you guys about a minute or so left, and then we'll get into some reasons and tips. Okay, does anybody want to give some reasons on these heifers? So you can go right ahead.
I will.
Perfect.
All right, so I placed this class of Hereford replacement heifers 4, 1, 2, 3. I put 4 on the top of the class because she's a broody, productive looking female. This is a female I would like to put in my herd. Moving into my second place animal 1, she's a very capacious animal, just lacks some of the lengths that I would like to see. Moving down into my third place animal 2, she's a very extended animal. I like her extension, but lacks capacity. 3 is a good heifer. I just find that she lacks length and capacity. She's also a little bit fine boned for my taste. For these
Okay.
reasons, I placed this class of
Okay. Good job again. One thing I also forgot to mention that I think is good for you guys to know as well. It helps you stand out if you talk about your class in pairs, so your top pair and your bottom pair. I guess I kind of mentioned it before, but I'm really comparing them as well. So instead of just talking about your first place, say your first place over your second place. So she was longer bodied. She showed more muscle expression from head to toe. She was deeper ribbed, things like deeper ribbed than the heifer below her, things like that. But no, really good job. Your vocabulary is really good as well. Just keep working on those transition words and interesting conclusions.
Yeah, one thing, if you ever come to any of our judging practices, one thing Bevan will always tell you is to compare. If you're not comparing, he doesn't know if you actually saw the class. You could just be talking about a random animal that you saw that wasn't fitting in the class. So yeah, always compare your top pair, your middle pair, and your bottom pair. Yeah, and like as Grace said, like with the does or the market lambs, you want that last place animal, you always want to find, there's always going to be something good about it. It might not be the best thing. It's definitely maybe not the best
Next class.
yeah, the best in the class, but there's always going to be something that's good about it that maybe stands out from the other animals. So yeah, you want to always say something good about them. But that's a very good set of reasons.
Does anybody else want to give reasons or tell us what you wrote down about one of the animals, one of the heifers?
Could I give a set of reasons?
Yep, go ahead.
I placed this class of Hereford heifers 4, 3, 1, 2. Placed 4 above 3 because 4, I found this heifer. She was thought feminine. She had the back end that I like. She had the rib shape, and she was really deep. One thing these two heifers do have in common here is definitely how long they are. Just looking at them from their side profile and looking at their stance, they are correct into their feet or correct into their structure. Very two good looking heifers in the top pair that I have chosen. Moving into my bottom pair. Number 1, I found her. She was just feminine throughout that front. Maybe not as much frame as 2 in front of her, but no, she was definitely a feminine made heifer. She was long. She just doesn't have quite as much rib shape looking at our top 2 pairs, or our top 2, but definitely a fine, wonderful, a fine looking animal out of this class. Our last heifer that we have, in last place here, she's feminine. She's not quite, or she has a little bit of rib shape if we compare, a little bit more rib shape compared if we compared her to number 3. I'd like to see a little bit more front end and back end on her. I'd also like to see some femininity into her, but otherwise she's a really nice heifer. These are my reasons why I had placed this class of Hereford heifers 4, 3, 1, 2.
Really good again. Kind of the same notes. I can tell you're starting to compare, which is really good. So keep on practicing that. Doing your reasons and pairs is really good. Do you have any?
The one thing is what I know I always struggled with this is saying your your placings more than once. So when you're saying I place this class 4 1 2 3, I start off with a pair of 4/1 and then like say your reasons, and then moving into my middle pair of 1/2, just so that you can you're the judge remembers in his mind or her mind that this is how you place them. It just helps you to, and it helps you too to remember like whereabouts you're at on your reasons. But yeah, otherwise, very good job.
Also remember that these are just pictures, right? So if you're actually judging a class, you'll be able to see them move, you'll be able to see all angles and stuff, right? So you'll have more to talk about. But no, really good. And pointing out identifying features in the animals too. I know these are Hereford, so they kind of look all the same. But if you have a class of, say, Simmentals, which are most of the time they'll look different. There's a cat with a white star on her head compared to 3 black ones or things like that. Something that is immovable, so don't say anything about the halter because that halter could change any other day. But if it's a marking that they have or the color of them is different than the other ones in the class, using that also is going to set you apart from the other members that are giving reasons. Does anybody else have anything that wasn't mentioned that they want to talk about of any of the animals, or are we ready to move on to the next? No? All right. So our last one that we're going to talk about, or we're going to judge, is a class of horses. These are geldings. I think I got 3 or 4 different, there's 3 different angles here, so we'll kind of go through them quickly, but if you guys want to take some reasons and take some notes on these, then you can go ahead and do that. And don't forget, if anybody has any questions while we're doing this, even if it's on any of the other classes, feel free to throw them in the chat or just ask us is good too. Okay, I know that was really quick, but if anybody done that wants to give some reasons, anybody new that hasn't given reasons that wants to give reasons on these geldings? If you don't want to give reasons, you can still just say something that you noticed or something that you compare between them. Otherwise, somebody else wants to give reasons, go ahead.
Hi, I placed this class of quarter geldings two, 4, 3. I placed one at the top of the class because because I believe that one is the most strongly muscle in the shoulders and in the hind end. And
So you're cutting in and out a little bit, so I'm not sure if you're done yet, but I think I got most of it. One thing too that I think should mention with horses that's really important is structure is really important in horses. Any producer that I've ever known that has horses, if there's a lame horse, that horse is no good. So structure is really important in any type of horse that you're looking at. Quarter horses and draft horses are going to be a little different. So depending on which class you have, make sure that you know what you're talking about. Horses I've always found to be a little bit more difficult just because I'm not a horse girl, but I also I just find that a little bit more difficult to differentiate. But if anybody else has any other reason that they want to say, anything else they want to talk about, muscling is really important in horses too. You don't want them to be too fat, but you don't want them to be too skinny. Any other points anybody else has, feel free to pop them in, or if you want to give a set of reasons, then go ahead. Good job though, from what I heard, it was good. Anybody else want to say any points or any reasons? We don't have set of reasons on these. We did not come with reasons or placings, but we could maybe give you a rough set if anybody wanted that.
Just compare, Grace, just say pick, your top two and do a comparative for them. Like,
Yeah. So with this class of quarter horse geldings, I'd probably do this is a brief look, 2/1. It'd be my top pair. In the top pair, I place these two geldings come to the top. They're very similar in their type and kind. They're in their makeup. They're quite structurally similar. Two, I feel, comes to the top of the class. I feel she's a little bit more refined in her muscle shape. She doesn't quite have the muscle, or she doesn't quite have the muscle expression that one carries in that hind end, which I grant to her, but she carries over one. She's got a more appropriate level of slope to her crew. She's a little bit longer, or she's a little bit shorter back, sorry, but I feel she would go well and produce well in any producer's herd. Mind you, if I could see these horses on the move, that could change. But structurally and overall balance, I feel she comes to the top of the class quite easily for me today. One, again, very similar in her type and kind to the gelding I have at the top. He gets a little bit longer in the neck. Like I said, a little bit more muscle expression than I would like to see. Maybe like to see him a little bit more proportionate in his top line and underline. But a horse that's very structurally correct. Again, if he was on the move, I'd maybe like to see a little bit more. But when you look at both these horses from behind, again, also they're both they both show the muscle expression and the width that I like to see. Again, two horses that just come to the top of the class quite easily in comparison to their structure and their makeup. Yeah. So that's like a rough set of reasons, of unprepared reasons without notes, but kind of something along those lines is what you'd be expecting in a collegiate competition or a higher competition. But yeah, if anybody else has anything they want to say or anything else that they can think of, go right ahead. Even if you just have a comparison that wasn't mentioned or something that you want to know about any of the classes that we talked about today, whether it's the the heifers or the market lambs, go right ahead. Otherwise, I think we're kind of cutting it close to time and we'll get on to questions. Is there anybody who is taking the horse program that could talk about it? If not, we can move on. Just wanted to see if anybody else had anything they wanted to say. If
You're
not,
all scared of the horses.
like I said before, draft horses and quarter horses are going to be different. So draft horses, the structural makeup is different. We judge those lots of exhibition. But just knowing what your class is and the terms and phrases that you should use for that species, that animal is really important to come prepared for that. Lots of competitions you might not even get the classes before you go there. But just being, just refresh yourself on kind of the main ones we talked about at the start, those beef classes, dairy, equine.
You're almost, no matter what competition you go to, there's definitely going to be a beef class, if not more than one. And usually you can find horses there too. But yeah, with horses, even like just the use of them, if they're a ranch horse or they're just like, I don't know, I'm not a horse person, I don't know all the different kinds of horses you can have, but if they're working horses, we had one in Saskatoon where we did working horses and one was missing an eye. He was a pretty good horse the rest of the way, but that eye put him automatically at the bottom of the class because he couldn't see properly, so he wasn't going to be able to do his job as well. So yeah, just knowing what the especially with horses, what their purpose is definitely going to change a little bit on what you're looking for in your classes.
And also thinking it back to the first presentation, obviously we weren't presenting, but we did talk about different terms and phrases to use. There's lots of transition words in those slides too. I don't know if you guys, Tracy, did they get a copy of the presentation or no?
You bet they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So those have lots of transition words and phrases that you can use. Excuse me. So those are good for you to keep and look over that in those different species and even just in general, because those will be really helpful and will put you apart and kind of can spice up and enhance your notes as well. So if nobody else has anything they want to say about any of the classes we did, there are two other classes. We do have a carcass class and a doe class, but I don't think we have time to judge those. But if you do want to settle reasons on those or want to practice on those and give reasons, just shoot us a message, or I don't know, we could probably get that to you if you really wanted that. Other than that, is there any questions on anything we talked about, anything we didn't talk about that you want to know about? Pop in the chat or ask us a question. I think that quite wraps it up for our presentation.
You can unmute if you want to, kids.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Aiden, you have a question? You raised your hand.
So transition words. So what are some that you would typically use?
I know when I'm transitioning, it's more like when you're transitioning from your pairs, or even just so if we're talking about moving into pairs, like moving into my middle pair or taking into consideration a pair that really excels in their structure, or just I don't know what other ones I use.
If you're talking about an animal or a pair that rounds out the class, you would say something, you say that rounding out the class today is two females that while they may come to the bottom, they still perform similar or they still compete in this class. If you're moving between two different animals, you can say furthermore, in addition to, I grant. How if you're talking about the lower animal over the higher animal, you could say, however, I do have to admit, or I see, or things like that. Just those words that are going to help you to compare as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, and I think there should be more of those on the first presentation too. And if you can't find them and you're looking for more, then we can definitely send more over. Any other questions? Is there something that we didn't talk about that you guys wanted us to talk about or that you guys want to know more about?
do any of you have questions like about dress or reading your notes? You know, and the other thing too, guys, maybe I'm not sure if they've all been there, that they know at your competition they'll be judging all the classes, and then if you're what level, juniors will give their reasons in the arena, but the seniors, you know, how to prepare as a senior to move over to the where you give reasons, maybe just.
Yeah, so we don't have our whole schedule finalized quite yet, but depending on what level you are, if you're a senior, I believe I don't know if this is just collegiate or if it's everybody, but you'll did everything, then you have to give reasons on so many in a different at the regional center instead of the arena. But you'll have time to prepare your notes as well, but make sure you're taking detailed notes, I think is the biggest thing I would say. Because by the time you get to have to say your reasons, you're giving reasons on a class that you judged the 2 hours or 3 hours before, right? So you want to make sure you're taking lots of notes, using identifying features again, like I said. So if it's a class of Simmental heifers and there's a blaze face, a red one, and two black ones, and make sure you talk about the red female or the female with or the heifer with the white star.
Yeah, because you got to remember that when you go to say your reasons, the class is not in front of you. So
Yeah.
it even helps yourself to just pick out an identifying feature. I know if there is a class of 4 steers and one of them's red and one of them's white, one of them's black, and then the other one's tan, I try to remember which one was each color and use that in my reasons, because it does help you stand out and helps you picture the class in your mind a little bit better.
Yeah, you know, the juniors and they don't have to give like a full set of reasons on everything, I don't think. I think they're only giving on a few. But yeah, like I said, keep your reasons detailed, but also short and sweet. Like don't overthink it. Don't put 5 different things about each animal. So when you get to the point where you're running out your reasons, you have so much to say, you can't remember it. A tip that we always learned, or that Bevan has always taught and dug into us, is using it without your notes. So you don't have to memorize your reasons, but if you can just know the main points of your reasons and what you want to say, what you want to get across, the more you don't use your notes, the better you're going to look and the better it's going to feel. So
that's where those transition words
Yeah.
come into place, because it obviously you don't want your reasons to be super duper short, because then you just don't want them to be short. So throwing in those transition words makes them a little bit longer. It makes you seem a little bit more that you look at the class really hard, and yeah, you compare. That's the big thing, is compare.
Yeah. If there's any other questions about our competition, we can try and answer them as well. If not, there's no more other questions about the classes or anything like that. What to wear, I guess, just what you would normally wear to a competition. So if you were at a really high collegiate competition like exhibition, you'd wear, dress pants, a nice shirt, and a blazer. Here we're not like super sticky on that, but dark jeans and a nice top is always looks professional and nice. You don't want to show up in your work wear, like your coveralls and work boots or anything like that, but dress professional.
Cowboy hat, not a ball cap.
Yeah. There's things like that. What you would typically wear to a competition is fine. Yeah. There's going to be lots of classes there. It'll be a really good day. So if anybody has any questions, otherwise I think we're pretty much done for today.
Perfect. Thank you, girls, very much.
Yeah, thanks all. Thanks for having us, and thank you all for coming.
Yes.
And yeah, our competition is March 8th. If anybody needs the information, we'll be sending out more information shortly, but